I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are grateful to currently live, work, and play on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Snacks peoples, and we honor their ongoing presence on the land. Today, instead of singing the Canadian National Anthem as is normally done, we need to honor the survivors and victims of residential schools in Canada, including the 215 found at the Kamloops Residential School and the 751 unmarked graves recently found in Saskatchewan. As you may know, from the mid-1800s until 1996, only 25 years ago, Canada collaborated with Christian churches to operate a mandatory residential schooling system for Indigenous children throughout Canada. Approximately 150,000 children attended these schools, forcefully taken from their parents by the RCMP, and tragically, about 1 in 25 children died from neglect and abuse at these schools, some as young as 3 years old. Survivors of the residential school system continue to experience the impacts of intergenerational trauma due to the loss of language, culture, traditional teachings, connections to their communities, and a lack of support on their path of healing towards mental and spiritual well-being. However, thanks to the tireless efforts of Indigenous peoples, the truth of what happened at these schools has been brought to the attention of all non-Indigenous Canadians. We would like to encourage you to support survivors of residential schools through donations to the Indian Residential School Survivors Society in BC. Teaching others in your community about the history and ongoing impacts of residential schools and familiarizing yourself with the 94 calls to action from the 2015 Truth and Reconciliation Report, which includes steps we can all take to support the survivors and ensure nothing like this ever happens again. We ask that you take the time to read these calls to action, acknowledge the privilege we all have living on stolen land, and amplify the calls for justice from Indigenous peoples, not just in moments like these, but always. Our hearts ache in grief and solidarity with Indigenous peoples, who are once again being forced to relive the generational trauma and lasting harm of the residential school system. All non-Indigenous people, including myself and my peers, have a role to play in reconciliation. Please join me in a moment of silence for the thousands of children who never returned home. Thank you.